tell me, Jim, back when, you were a young boy sitting on your grandpappy's lap and he asked you, what you want to be when you grow up, I'm sure it wasn't the king of vinyl.
I've never had that question before.
So, hey guys, thanks for joining us this morning. Your story is fabulous. Everybody always likes to hear about you. I've been getting messages on Facebook all morning about when we're going to get started here. So before we start chatting, I thought I would just irritate you a little bit and go down memory lane. So I'm going to share my screen here for a second. And maybe you might remember back to 2001, the BusyBeeJumpers website. So Jim, did you build this site or was this something that somebody did for you?
Someone did that for me. Yeah, someone, was that Brenda Morrissey?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably a young lady we knew from town just built that for me.
Yeah.
This was what year, David?
This is 2001. This is March of 2001. So I see one unit. And it looks like we got a couple little extra jumpers here and stuff like that. Then we jump forward to, this is 2006.
Yeah, this is
2006. So we can see you guys are getting a little bit more sophisticated.
Not much though.
Partnering up with Disney Radio, very good. And we got some more units now. So that was a pretty good jump. What were those days like? Now this is pre Sal, right?
What year did you join?
This is 2006.
I joined Jim in 2002. This is my 20th year with Jim. He's
wow.
Been
okay.
Very patient man for 20 years.
Then. Yeah, but you were probably humping vinyl.
I was one of his delivery guys.
Yeah. So let's jump forward a little farther. And now we're into 2008. Website hasn't changed much, but we do got a lot more stuff in here. And we're starting to see some new stuff like an online ordering form.
Yeah.
And if we go forward,
if you go back down, David, there was a time there when we partnered with an online party center that we got a commission when we sold party hats and dishes and napkins and stuff. That's that party store that's flashing at the bottom.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
So they used our link and they gave us a commission when someone bought something. That was
so
like cutting edge.
A local place nearby?
Nope, it was a national chain that reached out to us.
How did you go about that?
They approached us.
You?
They found me and said, "You're having so much traffic per day. Your people need napkins and cups and party hats and piñatas." So if you click that link, you went to their store and I got a commission on the sale.
Excellent. So now we're going to go forward again. Now we're at 2010, and here we can see now we can see the infamous tables layout for the website.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, now we're starting to get sophisticated and we got the dancing chicken. Whose idea was that?
I don't want to admit it, but that was probably mine, I guess. I don't know.
Perfect.
I got to take all the good and the bad.
There you go. And then we go forward. This is 2012. Now we see that you're onto ERS. This is the old ERS template I see.
Yep.
And that
Snowy Bus arrived that year.
Yep. We got some nice graphics going in there. A lot more inventory. Okay. And Snowy Bus finally shows up. That's cool.
Yep.
Very good.
But what the funny thing is, Dave, if you look at it, it's mostly mods and combos there too, really.
Absolutely.
Same product line we have today.
Do you think at that point, Jim, you were already formalizing the idea of the modular units and the ease of managing that?
Unconsciously, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we go forward. This is 2015, and that's where we met.
Super Dave.
Yeah. And you guys had one of the first customized ERS sites, I think, at that time. 2015 was right about when I think it was probably 2014, 2015. I started doing these with ERS, and this was the early one. Now this is before mobile devices.
This is cool.
Reminds me of
so Dave, when you sold us this one, you showed us a guy from Florida, the two dolphins and the little tiki hat that I really liked.
Yeah.
Is he Fort Lauderdale or is he?
No, that was, you know who that was? That was, what's his name? Coastal Moonwalks. Yeah.
Yeah. You showed us that T, that was the T style, right?
Yeah.
And you showed us his, and I thought that was the nicest site I've ever seen with graphics.
Yeah. His was like the #1 site in the country that period.
And rightly so. It was awesome looking.
Yeah, and he had a friend at the time, and now it's bugging me. I can't remember his name because he's a great guy. I got to find out who his name was. Hold on. This drives me crazy here. Coastal Moonwalks. Yeah, Josh. That's Josh Purnell. He had a friend that had basically, she was an artist, and she did this. Basically, it was a painting. I mean, it was just a beautiful piece of art.
Yeah.
And they had some issues. They were trying to get that to be a website. And back then, that was a very difficult process, trying to get that all to match up, because, of course, we were using tables at the time. We just talked about that. And that's kind of how we built this original site here. This is all before mobile devices. We hit the scene.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was Coastal Moonwalks was like the hot ticket in the business.
You can see right here when Sal took over the website, the big difference happened right there.
He's very well organized. He's methodical, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. And I
You
think
can see his footprints on this site with you.
he's got good instincts too for, you know, he knows what he likes and knows how to get it. And then finally, well, not finally, but and then we moved up.
That's why he married up.
A year later, this was when the mobile thing just exploded. And this was the first BusyBeeJumpers. You know, the thing that amazes me about your websites as I look through them, Jim, is you stuck with your brand, you know, right from that very first site back at the very beginning, you had a brand that, and I think it's paid off for you, you know, to hold on to that.
You're right.
Let me
Because
ask
we value that brand with our customers too, right?
Yeah.
They value our brand and we value our brand.
Yeah. And of course we get to modern day, which is again, the epitome. Everybody loves the Busy Bee site, and you can see people grabbing onto pieces and parts of it all over the internet now. So let me stop sharing that right now. Let's just get into the fun stuff. So tell me, Jim, back when, you were a young boy sitting on your grandpappy's lap and he asked you, what you want to be when you grow up, I'm sure it wasn't the king of vinyl.
I've never had that question before, David.
Yeah, so
but that's a true statement.
Tell us, my goal here, this whole thing that I'm doing for IAAPA this year was the result of, I saw just the last few weeks, I've seen it before, but it didn't really play on me that much. It was the idea that every year there's at least 1,000, 2,000 brand new bounce house companies come into the market. And of course, just as many fall out of the market. And I think it's because they don't have the mentorship, the business acumen, marketing, capabilities to get through that first year, because that's really the toughest period of time. Tell me about how you got into deciding to go into the party rental business.
So I know you're aware, but people aren't aware that my wife and I own daycare centers as well. Mm-hmm. My wife has a daycare business, and she cares for maybe 300 children, 400 children a day under her care.
Right.
So as it started, she would rent moonwalks on a Tuesday for a little daycare carnival. And for 2 years in a row, she said to me, these pieces are dirty. This man's not on time. He promised me a dinosaur. He brings me a frog. And then he yells at me when I complain. Mm-hmm. So after year 2, I said, if this man's treating you this way on a Tuesday for $1,000, was a lot of money back then, he must be treating everybody that way. Why don't you and I buy a couple of these, and we will at least beat him on service. And at the very least, we'll rent to your customers and break even, but have them for our own events. So it started with 2 pieces because of a daycare center that we owned, and we weren't getting treated properly by a man in my area who was still in business. Mm-hmm. I won't mention his name because that's not nice.
No, that's not nice. We don't need to do that. And during that process, I'm sure you were discovering things, about running a business like that. I know you had some business background, but what were the challenges that you faced your first year or 2 in the business?
So a funny story is the first delivery I made, I couldn't get it home. It rained overnight, and I said to my wife, this is not going to work. I can't get this piece home. I've been in the yacht for 2 hours. I can't get the piece back in the van. We had a school bus. I couldn't get it back in the bus. And I said to her when I came home, this may not be what I thought it was. This piece would not fold up. I couldn't get the water out of it. I didn't have a dolly. I had one helper who was probably 12 years old. So it was just a matter of time before we learned to roll them, how to get them dry, how to get them clean. But ironically, the demand was always there. People every week, those pieces went out every Saturday and Sunday. Pretty much the first couple of years we were pretty busy, probably did 30 rentals a year or 25 rentals a year. It's only a 24-week season here in New England. So it was just enough to let me know that I was done for the season. Then I'd rest all winter and get back at it by myself again the next year.
Right. I think that, that's one of the things that I do find is that everybody worries about competition and stuff like that, and somebody eating your lunch for your paycheck. But I think that one of the things that I find is that the biggest challenge that people face is that they're not ready for the actual logistics of running the business. It's a labor intensive business. You got to have the manpower, you got to have the trucks or trailers and things of that nature.
I'm not sure if they're not ready there, but they're not willing to commit the time to it, because everybody I see now wants to work 20 hours less, but make more money.
Yeah.
That seems diametrically opposed.
Yeah, to this industry, that's for sure.
Right.
How did you go about allocating your funds for the growth of the company, you think?
So the first 5 years, I just used proceeds of my own money. Back then, when I was a young man, I was afraid of borrowing money. So for the first 5 years, we just sunk all the money back into the business. Didn't really take a paycheck because my wife and I had other businesses going on. So that's really the critical time, those first 5 years, when you can put all the money back into the business. So we just reinvested our own money. And it wasn't until year 6 or year 7 that I took a loan and bought, I think, 40 units one year.
Wow. How long were you in business when you did that?
Maybe 6 or 7 years. They were, I believe they were
buy.
That's a big buy. Yep. That was a big buy. I had the spreadsheet still on my desk. I would get $200 a unit. I would rent them 10 times. I did some very basic pro formas, but I still have it as a reminder of what was going on. And I still have handwritten sheets of what we did in June and July and August of maybe 1992 or 93. They were handwritten at the time by a woman who worked with me. She would say, you did 17 rentals on Saturday, 18 on Sunday. We have all that data. And we look at it now, it's pretty funny. It was really scary that I had the nerve to buy that many pieces because I wasn't doing really shit back then, but it was a big buy back then. Yes.
So now that brings us up to your period of time, Sal. So how did you meet Jim?
A friend of mine worked for him, was a delivery assistant, and said to me, hey, I work for this really nice guy who just happened to have his business right up the street from my mom and dad. In 2002, I started working for him as a delivery driver, and have progressed up since. Luckily, now be his partner.
One of the things that people always comment, and I know you guys have spoken at the conferences and stuff before about the culture at BusyBeeJumpers, but that seems to be the prevalent thing. That story that you just told about your entrance into BusyBeeJumpers is actually repeated annually by other people. Can you talk a little bit about your culture and how that process works for you as far as keeping people? Because I think you've got over 100 people working on staff now, don't you?
Yeah, in our peak season, we're running 115 young men and women working in the office and both in our warehouse and on the road. Yeah, it's amazing. If I can start.
Please, yes.
Yeah. So
start and finish.
So I touched upon it. It was just, I think it's very telling that a friend of mine who I trusted, was working out with, playing football with in high school and college, said, hey, I work for this nice guy. I'd worked for other seasonal landscapers, masonry and construction guys before that, and they were not nice to me, and it didn't create for a positive work environment. And I think truly by Jim and his wife starting the business with a positive outlook on the staff, the business as a whole, it was just a fun place to go to work. And even though I was going there to earn a paycheck, it truly felt like I was a part of something bigger. It was just amazing when I'd go out and do a delivery. Jim would, at the time, we had like very not user-friendly cell phones. He would give me a call and say, hey, where are you? And I'd say, hey, I'm set up with SpongeBob. He said, great. How is everything going? And you always call me the A-team. And what I didn't know was he was calling everybody that worked there the A-team. but it truly made me feel like I was part of something better. I would tell him the customer's happy. I'm moving on to the next one. And it was just always this positive reinforcement. And I always admired that. And when I had the opportunity to come on with Jim, I said, how can I emulate this? And how can I be a leader that works with a positive influence on our guys. It's not easy to get young men and women here who have a lot of outside distraction at 5 a.m. on the weekends.
Yeah.
But it always blows me away. If we have 115 people coming in on a Saturday, it's extremely rare that maybe 2, 3, 4 of them are late. They all show up here. They're smiling. They're happy. Jim is rallying them up. I'm rallying them up, getting them excited for the day. They know that we're going to go deliver some bounce houses and put a lot of smiles on people's faces. And I truly think that they are enjoying their work, enjoying earning a paycheck, and they think they're a part of something bigger than just showing up, delivering a bounce house.
Excellent. So that leads me into my next question. And I know Jim's probably too modest to actually say this, but Jim, can you just put yourself in the coach's seat? Let's say you're the coach of the team, and we have a new bounce house company forming, right? You can't actually go out on the field and play with that team. What can you recommend to a new company getting started in the business, or that's relatively new to the business? How can they start to develop that type of culture within their organization? What kind of things would they do, say, and demonstrate?
I don't know. I guess it just comes organically to me, just something that just comes very easy to me. So it's hard to quantify that. But I think you have to be nice to people at your core, and you have to plant seeds, and it doesn't happen overnight. These guys in the warehouse don't trust me overnight. They trust me over time and how they treat them and how situations arise and how we react to them. Everyone's going to crash a truck. Everyone's going to miss a delivery. Everyone's going to hit someone's mailbox. That's not in debate. The question we have is, how do we react as a company to that, right? This man has 17 good weeks and he hits a mailbox. You can't forget the 17 good weeks that he had leading up to that day, right?
Right.
So I think, and additionally, you got to, like a good coach, we always use Belichick and the Patriots, and I know that drives some guys crazy, but you can't put the wrong man in the wrong position. We have some small guys who don't like being on the road, so we don't let them go. We put them in the food room. We have some young guys who aren't good on the road, so we put them answering phone calls. We try to find a place for people and put them in the right position. And additionally, when we have 35 trucks leaving, who the 2 guys are on the truck is very important. He and I could work together every day, but if you put him with a couple guys in the office all day, one of them would be dead. So we try to match up personality. You know what I mean? We try to match up personalities and put everyone in a position they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Some guys don't like driving in the city. Some guys don't like working in the country. Some guys can do 25 deliveries and some only want to do 3 big ones. So we're very cognizant of what their needs are, because we've identified maybe 5 or 7 years ago, it's not getting the business, it's getting the staff. So long before COVID, we focused on staffing, not on customers. We can get customers. Anybody can get customers, right? You can make my website hum, Dave. You can make my AdWords move. You can make everything beautiful, make people come in and do it. The question is, how do he and I on the backside get these 115 guys to come here at Saturday morning in the rain and make these deliveries with a smile on their face? So by focusing on their needs, when people say the customer comes first, here it's 50-50. The customer comes first in conjunction with the staff.
Yeah.
Because without those guys, we wouldn't be in business. And the older you get, you realize that I can't go on the road as much as I used to and do anything, right? So these guys are the lifeblood of the company. They're the ones who run the company on the road, right? We're a delivery company. In fact, we're not a moonwalk company. We're really a delivery company that has timing issues. Every single week, it's the most important day of the year for that mother and son on their 3rd birthday, right? That's their Super Bowl. So every Saturday, we have somebody's Super Bowl. And we try to tell those guys, even though you've had a great year, we got to do 4 more weeks, because this guy's party in October, it's the most important day of the year for this little guy. And we got to be on time, and it's got to be clean. You got to be nice. So I think putting guys in the right position and being nice to them and helping, they all have, and like Sal said, they all have outside stresses. Single parent home, no money, emotional issues. Everybody now has stress. I mean, these young guys carry a lot of stress and a lot of things that you and I probably didn't carry, Dave. When we were younger, no one asked us how we felt every day, right?
Right.
Now they don't want to be asked how they feel, what their feelings are. And although I'm not a big feelings guy, I've wanted to adapt to that, because this is where I live now, right? I live with their feelings. I live with their needs. I live with all those things. So I'm sure Belichick is a different coach now than he was 20 years ago.
Sure.
He would have whacked Lawrence Taylor in the back of the head and said, get on the field. And today he rubs Butler's back and says, how you feeling, buddy? Everything okay? It may not be in his DNA, but that's how he reacts to these guys, because he needs them to put their head down every Sunday and kill it. So you need to adapt as a leader and as an owner to know your audience, right? Not your customer's audience, your employees' audience, who those guys are. And once you know who they are, you can then, I think, work with them better.
Yeah. So Sal, when I was a young man like you, when I'm talking about young, I was in my, I'm going to say like my or late teens, early 20s, right? I had some great mentors like Jim that helped. They shaped me, basically.
Mhm.
They taught me how to be a leader. They taught me how to interact with people. I was learning. I came from a sports background like you did, not the same
Yep.
sport. Obviously, I'm a little guy, but yeah, tell me about how Jim changed you, because basically he taught you to be him.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
So I
So
found Jim, he's shaking his head, but I found Jim's personality to be infectious. And I think the easiest way I can describe it is people want to be around positive people, right? People that are, even in negative situations, are handling with grace, with elegance, and not freaking out, not stressing out over the littlest things. I can talk about this very openly. I grew up in a house where if an accident happened in the house, you would have thought a bomb went off.
mhm.
I met Jim. I remember I hit a tree one time in his truck, and I was devastated. I came back, and he said, "What happened to the truck?" And I said, "I don't know what happened, but there was a low hanging branch. I hit it." And he said, "Don't worry about it. We're going to fix it." I thought immediately I was going to get fired. I thought that our relationship was over, and I'd
You're
worked for him
going
for
to
a few
jail.
weeks. Yeah. So I kind of recognize that I think that a lot of other young men and women kind of grow up in that environment, that their parents sometimes with outside stress don't know how to handle when they make a mistake. I think by being around him, being positive, constantly coaching me up, giving me good advice, not overloading me with advice, but giving me the advice as I needed. Right.
Mhm.
When I was searching for it, he would take the time, take a couple minutes out of his day and have a conversation with me. Hey, here's what we're doing good on the road, Sal, but here's where I see us to improve. I don't mean to Monday morning quarterback you. You did these 7 things great, but if we do this one other thing great, everything's going to just start flowing even smoother for you. And I think truly by working with him now for 20 years that I have taken on that mindset. I remember when I first started working as his partner in the capacity of hiring staff and coaching them, that I was sometimes a little too aggressive and too hard on the guys that were working directly for me. I realized that I was starting to get pushback. Guys were getting bristly. I was losing employees. They were quitting. And I remember Jim was always amazing at this, is not during the game would he sit there and try and coach me, because that's when emotions are high, things are flying at a fast pace. On a Monday, after the weekend had been completed, we would sit down and have a cup of coffee in private, and he would say, "Hey, here's what I'm seeing from a distance. Don't worry about what happened there. Let's worry about how we can fix it." And it just gave me a different outlook on things, not so much how to react to problems, but how to fix problems, right? So there's a way you can react to them, but there's always a solution if you put your head down, keep a positive outlook on things. And I truly think that by emulating that, that's made me not only a better now boss, I will say,
Mhm.
to everybody at Busy Bee. I don't think of
You're a
myself
leader.
or Jim as bosses, but yeah, we're their leader, right? We all work together for a common goal to have successful weekends. But by keeping a positive outlook on things, I've realized that at work, everything just flows a lot smoother.
Mhm.
Secondly, Jim's an amazing, to sidebar, he's an amazing husband to his wife and parent to his kids. And me just having my first child 10 weeks ago, I realized when my wife and I have some stress at home, that there's a way to react to things, and there's a way to take on things with a positive outlook. Hey, the baby woke up in the middle of the night. I know this is not ideal. Let me take her tonight. You took her last night. And next thing you know, when I come home, it's like I did something so magical that I let my wife get an extra couple hours of sleep. There's a give and take in every relationship, right? And there's a way to identify that and be better towards your staff. By giving a little bit, you get a ton in return.
Jim, let me get back to you. And I wanted to talk a lot about personnel and hiring and the team atmosphere, because obviously the biggest thing that people are trying to figure out all across the country in this industry is employment. How do I get people to come to work for me? When I know you guys get a lot of referrals in, like Sal, is there something that you particularly look for in a potential employee, or do you let them kind of show themselves to you and
Yep.
see if they're just going to work out?
Yep. So Sal and I have a joke. We let the weekend come to us. We let the employees come to us as well, right? Let the man show who he is. Let the woman show who she is. Let's see if we can work with them, how we can make things better. And then don't get me wrong, there's times when it doesn't work, right? I mean, when everything here is not hunky dory. One time we were speaking in New Orleans, a man said, yeah, but you have all B guys up there who are A minus B guys. You just got to tweak them a little bit. That's not the case. We got plenty of guys, bad guys who walk in here. But I think the warehouse kind of like almost like a locker room, it patrols itself. Guys who've been here 15, 20 years or even 5 years say to a young guy, hey, we don't do that here. Hey, we don't do this here. Hey, that's not cool to do that to somebody you work with here. So after building that culture for 27 years or 26 years, it's kind of now the warehouse kind of runs itself. It's kind of rare sometimes when Sal and I have to get involved in a small problem because some guy like Connor or Mickey or Michael will say to them, hey, let me talk to you about something. You don't want to do that here. Get off your phone because everyone in the warehouse is working here. That's not cool to you to be doing that. So we do have plenty of bad guys that some guys come and go, but we don't really look for a certain type of guy, I don't believe. We look for somebody who can just get out of bed. We always say, we don't care how big you are. We don't care how smart you are. We don't care how strong you are. Can you be here at 4 a.m.? Because if you're not here, you're no help to us at all. If you are here at 4 a.m., no matter how strong you are, you can help.
I agree.
Are there any things that you do collectively as a group where you get everybody together? You got a Busy Bee picnic or things of that nature?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, we had a Christmas party. We had a kickoff meeting where we did pizza and beer and went over all the rules and guidelines and passed, like everybody else does, passed out uniforms. We do barbecue out back. Usually in June, we'll do an end of June Monday morning breakfast where we do sausage and eggs on the grill, one of our grills. We'll have a wrap-up meeting, tell them how June was, tell them how we appreciate all their hours. Because for June, for us, we do sometimes a third of our revenue in 30 days. So June just blows, I mean, I know you know that, Dave, but June kind of blows our hair back sometimes. So when June's over, we do a little celebratory cookout, buy everybody breakfast, coffee, let them know how much work they did and how we appreciate that. So we have events throughout the year as a group. Additionally, we have, like everybody else, fantasy football leagues. We have guys who go golfing in some simulator. I joined that group last year. So there's a social undercurrent where guys have become, we've had 2 marriages here come out of Busy Bee. People met, one young lady in the office, one year they met in the warehouse. So we have a culture. Sal and I probably go to 7 weddings this year. We go to a lot of weddings.
Didn't Kylie just get married?
Yes. Yep. Kylie did. She had a baby a couple weeks before Sal.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I didn't hear about that one.
Yep.
Yeah, her baby is 1 month old.
I didn't even hear about Sal's baby from Sal. I heard about it from his wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're friends on Facebook.
So, I mean, we have a whole culture there where I don't think being self-employed, I'm fully aware how much social interaction goes on between employees.
Yeah.
And it's more than just a workplace. There's a lot of, they have a lot of outside time together as well, which makes me feel good when these guys go to each other's weddings and they become lifelong friends and some get married. It's crazy. How could 2 people get married who met here at Busy Bee? That's crazy to me.
I know.
I can't be that old. And now they have children together. So
boy, you're already now it's just going to be perpetuating because those kids are going to come and work for you.
Yeah. So to answer your question, it's not really a type. It's a guy who can get out of bed who wants to work.
So let me take you back again, which is why I kind of wanted to have the Wayback Machine view of your old sites from the beginning to the end here. I know we've got some people coming in that have been listening to us patiently, and I'm going to open it up for questions here, folks. So if y'all can hear me, we're going to let you talk to Jim and Sal directly here in a few minutes. But let's go back 15 years and picture yourself as the new guy, not brand new, but because I know some of these people I see logging in have been around for a year or two. What things would you suggest that they focus on to grow their businesses? Let's say they've got, I don't know, let's say they've got maybe a half a dozen jumpers, there might be thinking about getting a warehouse or a place to start doing it because the garage is too small. They're thinking about, well, what do I need to focus on as far as my marketing? Do I pay for advertising? Do I pay for AdWords or things like that? What is the business scenario that you would say these are the things that you should be thinking about right now to get to that $250,000 a year gross revenue?
I'm a numbers guy, so I'm always looking at numbers, always looking at forecasting, budgets, a P&L, what your labor costs are. I think that's just, I mean, there's a million ways to skin a cat, right? Everyone around the country runs their business differently. Pete Carroll coaches as a nice guy and Bill Parcells is a mean guy, but they both win. So I'm not saying my way is the best way. I'm saying my way is numbers, P&L, budgeting, forecasting, and projecting your numbers. So you have a handle on where your business is going by the numbers, not just by your, I love when these guys go on and say, this piece rented 7 times for me last year. I'm going to buy another one of those unicorns. I don't know what that means. What was their margin? What was their big picture? What, you know, you can't go shopping at, this is going to be off in a million directions, but you can't go shopping at IAAPA with a checkbook and see what's new down there. You got to have a plan when you go down there, what you need, what worked best for you last year, what was your best margin piece, what's easy to move, what works in your area. To go to IAAPA and see the newest and greatest stuff and buy it, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand that. You know what I mean? It's based on what works in your market back in East Bridgewater and Whitman, what customers want and what you can move efficiently, right? We always joke, we buy mods and combos. We never have a sexy IAAPA trip. People always say to me at the bar, what do you buy? And I'm like, we bought a couple mods today. They're like, are you kidding me, Jim? What did you buy that's brand new and sexy? I'm like, I had a tequila and orange juice, probably the best thing I bought all day that you would like.
But if I could speak to that, I struggled with that. When Jim and I first started together, I said, but this strawberry shortcake, this thing's going to sell like crazy. And I was very thankful that Jim, being a numbers guy, would slow me down and say, hey, we printed up a budget before we got here. We see that we're selling out of combos every weekend. Why are we going to get this one-off piece with hopes and dreams, because it aesthetically looks pleasing to me, that it's going to rent to our client base? Took me at least a couple of years to kind of understand that. But I would say, geez, Jim, but these combos aren't sexy. But every weekend we're selling out of them. Every weekend it's going from happy birthday to sports, happy birthday to sports, or happy birthday to happy birthday. And we started seeing the trends, and Jim saw them long before I did, that by keeping a very streamlined inventory, that allowed and facilitated for faster growth. So I think sometimes when I see problems across the industry, I see clients going out and buying the new Frozen. They go out and buy the new Ninja Turtles piece. But as soon as that flavor runs out after 12 months or 16 months, or whatever the life cycle is, that piece then sits in the corner of their warehouse because Elsa's not as cool anymore because there's a new princess out that they're into, whether it's Cinderella remake or what have you. But Jim was really, really good at projecting and seeing the future of the business by recognizing that the more simple modular jumpers, combo jumpers, and a very unique type of couple water slides, the wet dry combos, were our future. And I'm very thankful for that. I think that a lot of people, when hoping to grow their business, should look at their top revenue producing pieces and start growing off of those. I think the one-off pieces, we saw people for years buying Euro bungees and other very expensive pieces for $25,000 and $30,000 that really at the end of the day is 10 combo jumpers. And it takes one specific guy to set that Euro bungee up, but a lot of people can be trained very quickly to set up the combo jumpers or the modular jumpers.
Excellent. So to the folks that are watching us right now, if you'd like to ask a question of Jim and Sal, please pipe in. If you're a little bit bashful, you can also put it in the chat and I'll be happy to ask them for you.
Can I give you my pet peeve, Dave, while we're waiting?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I'm not sure why people go on Facebook and bash their employees all day.
Oh,
that should be handled internally by getting a little beef once a month with somebody about employee relations. Really, what is the purpose of talking bad about somebody on Facebook? Does that make you feel better? Does it make them feel better? Does it make you seem like a victim? If you have employee relations, handle them in-house and stay above the fray. I think that's my advice on growing a business.
I don't understand how people communicate on, well, I understand it, but I don't understand why they treat people like that. They say things and do things on social media that they would never do face to face. This week, if you guys get a chance, I happened to catch this interview with, it was a young conservative guy, Ben Shapiro, and he interviewed, did you see it? With Eric Schmidt from Google?
I did not.
Wow. And he talked about these things and about the situation going on with social media and the way that people are communicating with each other and the things that actually they're not even communicating with each other. They're communicating at each other. All right. And so, I mean, there's a whole tribe of people out there that they don't have anything to say unless it's something negative or bad. And it's just, it creates this environment that everybody, kind of is trying to one up the next guy, and it gets terrible, especially when you get into a situation with employees. I, like with you guys, I am always talking to my clients. I get them during the day when they're at the office. I hear how they're communicating with their staff and employees. And I got to tell you, sometimes I have to block my ears because the language and the way that they are communicating with their personnel, it's just terrible. You think you're on an old pirate ship somewhere with some of the words and the language that's out there, and I know that you guys don't do that. And that's why you've been able to create that culture.
Yeah, I think to kind of jump off of what Jim said, truly for us to have so many staff working with us, it's a privilege. So when something bad happens, it's not throw this guy under the bus, burn him at the stake and move on to the next guy. It's how do we fix the problem? Because I think that I've learned it's a lot easier to coach people up and mold people the way that you want your company culture to have them than to go out on the street and try and find someone new, bring them in, get them downloaded on your policies, procedures, schedules, things like that. I think that it's super, super, super important that people look at their staff and think of how lucky they are to be self-employed. I just think it's one of those things that I sit back a lot when we slow down, and I'm so proud of what Jim and I have created here, bringing on so many employees. It's probably one of my proudest things, and Jim can speak to this. Seeing people work for us for 5, 6, 7, 10 years now, they're all having kids, they're buying houses. We've given them not only a job today, but a career that they feel comfortable to go sign a mortgage with their husband, with their wife, and have kids and know that Sal and Jim are going to be there at 6 a.m. the following day, turn the lights on, bring sales in and keep them busy, that they can continue to move their lives forward. It's for me, it's as a young man, it's probably the most rewarding aspect of the business, besides growing it for me.
Mm-hmm. I understand that completely. So let me ask you this. We're going to wrap this up here in a couple of minutes. So now let's look to the future. What do we got planned for the future for Busy Bee Jumper? What are the areas that you want to expand in or develop new? Something, where do you guys see yourself going in the next 2 or 3 years?
That meeting happens in December 1st usually. We evaluate the year. We look at our totals and things, but not to be boring, but probably more of the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've had a great year. We fought through COVID like everybody else. So I don't see our model changing too much. Not going to change to big events or change our product line very much. I'm not going to speak for Sal, but probably replenishing our inventory, tightening up our margins, working on social media, maybe add TikTok to our schedule some days. But, small improvements, right? We always say we're not trying to reinvent the wheel because we don't want to stop the momentum. We just want to fine tune it a little bit because it's really not broken. We've had a great year, so there's really no need for a major change for change sake. It's probably just more I hate to say it, it's more combos and mods, probably.
So here, I've got a question for you here. This is from Mike Payton. I know Mike, I've seen his name on the groups at time. I don't know the name of his company, but he says, "Hey guys, thanks for doing this. I'm in a similar season market. So season starts Easterish. For 2022 will be my second full-time season. First time hiring demand is strong to where I need to recruit around 6 people. When do you guys time out the recruiting, and what's your sequence to ramp up for the season?" It's kind of a 2-part question.
Yeah.
So I started working for Jim when I was going to be a freshman in college. I think that somewhere in the middle to end of high school, I'll say junior, senior year through college is really like a hotbed for us to find talent. What I think about is when we get that staff, we then could have 4 or 5 good years with that staff while they're finishing up high school and going through college. It's having a seasonal component to our business being in the Northeast and in Massachusetts. We start to get busy in May when all the college kids are getting out of school. And then we start to unwind in September when all the kids are going back to school. For the work that we do have in the September and October months, we have a college and a couple high schools that are pretty local to us. We tap into those and use those guys through our shoulder months, I'll call them. But I think that ramping up for it, Jim and I are constantly putting out feelers. We have a big group chat, like a employee platform where we schedule guys and communicate with them. And we're constantly throwing feelers out there. And I think by keeping a positive work environment here, we are constantly always, I don't think ever stop recruiting talent here. We're almost 12 months a year searching for the next girls to answer the phones in the call center, the guys to work in the warehouse, loading trucks, unloading trucks, the guys to go out and be delivery assistants, the guys to mature from being a delivery assistant to now a delivery driver. That's probably one of the things that brings me a lot of happiness is when I see the guys move up the pipeline here, when they come in as a.
Sometimes we joke, we lose money on a guy the first couple of years.
Sure.
Well, he's a helper. He's kind of costing us money, but that man's watching 400 deliveries we made over 2 years. So by the time year 2 or 3 comes, now he's out making money for us because he's been on the road for so long as a helper, right? So the guy to come for 1 or 2 years and leave, all that training's wasted. So we're planting seeds and growing this guy to get in that truck by himself with a helper in a couple of years as he's a sophomore in college and hit the road, a freshman in college and go do that. We had 2 guys start last week, Mark from Bridgewater, started 2 weeks ago. We only got 6 weeks left. Hey, come on in. Learn us, see who we are for 6 weeks. And then when April comes, you're ready to hit the ground running. So we have even new guys starting now in November.
And to the point is, so Mark starts, his friend then texts Jim and I and says, hey, I know my friend Mark is working for you guys. My name is Jaden. I can start Saturday. I said, okay, great. 6 o'clock. At 5:45, this guy was standing outside of our warehouse before the lights even got turned on. He's a sophomore in high school and he can't wait to get to work for us because his friend somehow in some informal communication, whether it was at school or outside of school, said, hey, I'm working for these 2 guys. They're really cool. The job is fun. And we picked up another guy. And I told him very openly, our season's going to end in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And he said, that's fine. I just want to get my foot in the door. And then when you guys need me in the spring, I want to hit the ground running.
Excellent.
The flip side is we didn't even need him that day. Sal brought him in as an extra 3rd guy in a truck, not for that day, but he's already planning for next year. Let's get this guy in. I'm going to overpay for him today. I really don't need him, but let's get him on the road and see how he does and see if people like him and see if he likes us. So there's kind of investment in next year already, right?
And that's the key, right? So I guess the thing I get from all this is that we have to think of employees as investments.
Yes, absolutely.
So I need to wrap it up, guys, because we're getting ready to go into our next session here. So how about a golden nugget that you can give people that if they're new to the business, what's the one thing that you would tell them to stay focused on?
You can go first.
Mine would be very simple. Be nice and be aware. So I think truly everybody has a lot of things going on in their life, at their house, at their job, whatever it is. But I have truly found that by being nice to people, I make a lot of mistakes. Jim will tell you, I make mistakes every day, all the time. But by being nice, apologizing, and just being aware of people's feelings, it's amazing. It's amazing how many times people will forgive you, move on, and then we're on to the next problem and project.
Yeah.
So to do something different during IAAPA week, I would say, don't buy the cheapest piece at IAAPA today. Don't buy the cheapest piece with no delivery fee or free shipping.
Yep.
Buy a quality piece because the price is not relevant anymore. The prices come down everywhere. So if you spend a couple $100 more or $400 more for a piece, but you get 2 more years out of it, what have you gained, right? Don't buy the cheap stuff at IAAPA. Buy something that's quality that you can use for a few years and put it on your website. Get it shipped to your place. Invest in a piece of equipment that's going to last. Don't chop on price.
Excellent. Jim, Sal, thanks a lot, man. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for everything, man.
And
always nice to see you, David.
Yes, sir. And I'll be looking forward to talking in the spring or after December 1st anyway.
After December 1st.
So guys, have a good day. I'm going to check out of here myself. I got to get my next crew in here. We're going to go talk to, who are we talking to next? Oh yeah. Gary Giffen, another old time client of mine. He's down at Jolly Dolly. He's got those really ginormous dollies things, so I know everybody, that's also a common thing that
right.
So we're going to see what Gary's got to do. He's also a long time client. He owned Best Jump Inflatables down in Louisiana. I think he's just outside of New Orleans. So
Dave, can I say one more thing? Cut you off?
Yeah, sure.
You've been talking about us the whole time, but how long have we worked together?
What was it, 2015? So it's been
6 or 7
over a
years.
decade and a half, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a
Yeah,
while.
and I think your expertise and your involvement in Busy Bee has been a huge part of our success.
Huge.
I know we say it once a year online, but honestly, the site you've created and the help you've given us and the knowledge you've given us around the country about what other people are doing and how things work, we learn a lot from you every time we speak, whether it's in person or online or on the phone. Yeah, you know, Sal and I both do this when you call. We value your advice and you do great work for us and we appreciate it.
I agree. That's why we coined the nickname Super Dave.
Super Dave.
My buddy.
Thank you, guys. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you spending the time with us this morning, and I will be talking to you soon.
Thanks for
David.
having us.
Have a good
Thanks
day,
for
buddy.
joining us, everyone.